It was a Thursday, that kind of midweek quiet where nothing seems unusual, where your mind is halfway toward the weekend and your body just wants a moment of stillness. I had just returned from the gym, dropped my keys in the ceramic bowl by the door, and was halfway through slicing an apple when she walked in. Juliet. She wasn't wearing anything dramatic, just a slate gray dress, a blazer tossed carelessly over one shoulder, heels clicking like punctuation marks against the floor. But her face was different. It was expressionless. That's what made it worse. No anger, no sadness, just cold decision. She placed a thick manila envelope on the kitchen counter, like she was delivering a menu, then looked up at me and said, "I've inherited $10 million. I want a divorce. Get out by tonight." That was it. Not a pause, not a flicker of hesitation. Just the sentence, dropped like a guillotine. I genuinely thought I'd misheard her. I waited for the punchline. Maybe a dry laugh, a cruel joke, even something to suggest I wasn't losing everything over breakfast. But she didn't laugh. She just stood there, arms crossed like she'd just handed me my termination letter. I blinked. "I'm sorry." "What?" "You heard me," she said. "My inheritance came through. There's no need to pretend anymore. I'm done. I want my space back. I want my life back." My jaw clenched, involuntarily. It wasn't just the words. It was the ease with which she said them. 7 years of marriage, dinners cooked, nights we held each other after bad dreams, business strategies I stayed up helping her build. All discarded like an unwanted draft. I looked down at the envelope. It had my name on it. Bold. Typed. No handwriting. That told me everything. She hadn't written this. She had prepared it. Pre-planned. Maybe for weeks. Maybe longer. I opened it slowly, the paper slicing the tip of my finger as I pulled out the documents. A paper cut. But it felt like it bled everything. Inside were the divorce papers, a clean list of terms. She was keeping the house, the cars, the artwork, the accounts. I was being left with what I brought in, which, according to her declaration, was minimal. I let out a slow breath. Not anger, not sorrow, just the kind of disbelief that anchors itself in your bones. Then I heard it. Footsteps, heavy, intentional. I turned and saw them standing there, her twin brothers. Troy and Mason, 2 men who never did a single thing without a smirk on their faces. They leaned in the kitchen doorway like henchmen in a bad movie, arms crossed, smugness radiating off them like cheap cologne. "She doesn't need you anymore," Troy muttered, with a crooked smile. I didn't respond. I just looked at him for a moment, then back at her. She didn't even flinch, didn't correct him, didn't soften the blow. She just stood her ground. This was coordinated. I could see it. Now, not a heat-of-the-moment decision. This was weeks, maybe months, in the making. She'd waited until the money hit her account, until she could surround herself with reinforcements. And then, she launched her little coup. I stepped back from the counter and ran a hand through my hair. "So that's it?" I asked. "You get your payday and I become disposable?" She tilted her head, like she was trying to understand why I was still standing there. "I don't love you anymore. I haven't for a long time. I stayed because I had to. Now I don't. The thing is, if she'd cried, I might have broken. If she'd yelled, I might have fought. But she was cold, calculated, detached, and I realized the woman standing in front of me now wasn't the person I married, or maybe she was. Maybe I had just refused to see it. My hand was still bleeding, lightly from the paper cut. I wiped it on a napkin, then nodded slowly. "All right," I said quietly, "if that's what you want." She nodded once, like a queen granting an exit. "Be gone before dinner." I walked past her, not looking back. Not yet. Not while they were watching. I went upstairs and entered the bedroom we once shared. It already felt foreign. As I opened the closet, I could see gaps, items missing, my cufflinks, my tablet, a framed photo of my late mother. Gone. She'd been preparing for this. Probably had a bag of excuses lined up if I had noticed earlier. But I didn't. Because I trusted her. I opened my travel case and began to pack. Not much, just the essentials. The suit my father gave me, my old watch, the passport I kept locked away. I moved with purpose, folding each shirt with the kind of care you give to memories, not clothes. I could hear them downstairs, talking, laughing. The sound made my stomach turn. I grabbed my phone, opened my banking app. The joint accounts were already inaccessible. My name had gone. Just like that. I smiled, not out of humor, but because I realized something. They thought this was the end of me, but they had no idea who I really was. When I finally zipped my bag shut and took one last look at the room, I didn't feel grief. I felt focus. I walked slowly down the stairs, my suitcase trailing behind me. Juliet was in the kitchen now, pouring wine. The gall of it, a toast to betrayal. She didn't look up as I passed. Her brothers did. Troy tilted his head, clearly hoping for some reaction, some last word. But I gave him nothing. I walked out the front door and paused on the porch. Then I turned back and said, "Calm as steel. You'll regret this. All of you." They laughed. That was fine. Let them laugh. They wouldn't be laughing for long. Not after what I had planned. Not once I reminded them exactly who they had underestimated. Because this wasn't the end. No, this was the beginning. Server set up for home use, delivered to a private office I just leased under a different name. I was rebuilding the lab, and I wasn't alone. Drayton wasn't the only person I reached out to. I called Dahlia Ward, a corporate litigator and financial strategist who once helped me shut down a fraudulent acquisition before Juliet and I ever met. We hadn't spoken in 5 years. But when she heard what happened, she said, "Tell me where to show up and what to wear." 2 days later, she was at my office, navy blue suit, heels that clicked with authority, and a fire in her eyes. "She really dragged you out by your hair?" she asked as we sipped coffee. "Yep." "Good," she said, setting her mug down. "Then she has no idea what's coming." We worked non-stop. I laid out everything, my holdings,